Welcome back to HQ Spotlight. Let's talk about the AFC East because it is all Bills all the time. They currently are still the favorite to win the division there despite picking up their first loss of the season to the now second place New England Patriots. The Patriots, of course, taking down the Bills last week, and then the Dolphins and the Jets, a whole lot of bad down there at the bottom of the AFC East. We will see the Jets kick off our Sunday slate across the pond. They'll get Broncos, they'll face the Broncos, I should say, out in London. The Finns, meanwhile, getting set for a matchup against the Chargers. Let's ask some questions about the AFC East, and to do so, we bring in our NFL analyst, Tyler Sullivan. Tyler, let's start with the Buffalo Bills. They are undefeated no more, so they're going to have to bounce back this week against the Falcons. And, you know, it's interesting. We joke all of the time, kind of tongue-in-cheek, that Josh Allen can do it all, right? He can put this team on his back, and they can win no matter what. But we're kind of starting to see that maybe he needs a little bit of help out there. What is your big question that you have when it comes to the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, and it goes right to that. It is this team going to make a move for a wide receiver? Because to me, if you look at the Buffalo Bills, that's kind of the one deficiency. Obviously, you have James Cook out of the backfield. He's been one of the best running backs in the NFL through the month plus of the season. Of course, Josh Allen, the reigning MVP, pretty good at the whole quarterback thing. But the one area where they seem to be lacking is at wide receiver. Even Dalton Kincaid has been solid at the tight end spot, but you really haven't seen this wide receiver room really elevate. To me, when I watch them, there's no separation when any of these pass catchers are going out to try to create plays, more explosive plays down the field. I don't see that with Keon Coleman. Josh Palmer was brought here in part to do that. Haven't seen that so far. Shakir is more of a possession guy over the middle of the field, so he's not really designed to do that. And when I look at this AFC, not just the AFC East, but I look at this entire conference, you have the Kansas City Chiefs really kind of being up and down through the first month plus. You have the Baltimore Ravens depleted with injuries. You have the Cincinnati Bengals needing to trade for Joe Flacco of all people. This conference is wide open for the Buffalo Bills, and they should be doing everything in their power to solidify themselves as the powerhouse, the clear favorite to come out of this and leave no stone unturned. So if I am the front office for the Buffalo Bills, I'm looking at a Chris Olave. I'm looking at an A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. I'm trying to make that big splash to push myself over the top in the AFC and get to a Super Bowl.
Could you imagine A.J. Brown and Josh Allen? I've got Jordan Giorgio to my left here shaking her head like, no, thank you. Let's get him in Philly, please and thank you. Let's talk about the team that beat the Bills last week, Tyler. The New England Patriots. It was the Stephon Diggs revenge tour, as we know and we saw in the pre- and post game. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, though, when it comes to this New England team. They are taking on the Saints, a team that just got its first win. But, Sully, are you buying into the idea that this Patriots team with Drake May behind center can be a postseason contender?
Well, this is the question, right? Because what we saw on Sunday night is the culmination of really this whole Mike Vrabel era. You bring him in as your head coach. You really surrounded Drake May with a lot of intriguing weapons, a better offensive line during the offseason. And what you saw on Sunday is everything kind of coming together. Now, the question is that who the New England Patriots are now? And do we look at them through that lens? And if we do, all right, the conversation is not, can you double your win total from a year ago? It is, are you pushing for a wild card spot? Are you pushing to win a playoff game? And if you're looking at that lens, then we're holding them to a different tier. My question is, are we actually there? Because I have my doubts. I think that they are capable of going into Buffalo and beating the Buffalo Bills like they did on Sunday, but are you able to do it consistently? That is what separates the playoff teams from the average Joe teams in the NFL. Anybody can get clipped every single week, but can you consistently contend? So I look at this game, as crazy as it sounds, this week in New Orleans. I know the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans and Buffalo are two totally different animals, but the Patriots are road favorites here. They're laying 3.5 against the New Orleans Saints. That is a game where they should be able to go in and win that football game. If it's close, if New Orleans pulls off that game, then you start to say, okay, this is still a rebuilding team. They're still going through their growing pains, because I look back a couple of weeks ago, they had 5 turnovers against the Pittsburgh Steelers and they lost a 1-possession game. If those things start to rear their head, you kind of still look at them as a rebuilding team. If they continue to dominate this schedule, well, then we really look at them as a legitimate playoff threat.
And we can't take the Saints, lightly as well. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with Buffalo, at least for a minute there, at least through 3 quarters. I'll say they were pretty strong there. And then they beat the Giants last week. So it'll be an interesting one. That one kicking off on CBS, 1 o'clock Eastern. Let's talk about the Dolphins here, Tyler. Just super weird vibes going on in South Florida right now, right? Because you rally and you beat the Jets to get your first win of the season, but then you turn around and you lose to the Panthers on the road. And I think this season, Tyler, has been culminated by the video of Mike McDaniel walking into the tunnel after that Panthers game. You could see it all over his face, the frustration and everything coming to a head here. I know there have been calls for his job. There's been calls for leadership in the room to step up as well, too. What's the biggest question you have on your mind as the Dolphins try to get through 25?
Haley, when the shades come off of Mike McDaniel, you know it's pretty serious, and that's what we saw last week. They didn't just lose to the Carolina Panthers. They blew a 17-point lead. It was not like they, came out close and it just didn't fall their way. They collapsed, and that's really been the question here with the Miami Dolphins, specifically with Mike McDaniel. If this continues, I legitimately have a question of if he's going to make it through the year. I mean, we're already talking about him meeting with ownership and things like that, and whenever those conversations start to really percolate, you get a little uneasy and that seat gets really hot. And of course, they play the Los Angeles Chargers this week. I don't know if anything's going to happen, in the next couple of weeks. Where I have circled is week 12, their bye week. They are coming back from a game in Madrid against the Washington Commanders in week 11. This is about a month and a half stretch here where I think it's going to get real hairy here for Mike McDaniel. If you do not turn things around on a multitude of levels, I think that we could get to that bye, and there's a possibility that when they get back stateside, Mike McDaniel is not their head coach. You look at what this team has done over the first month or so of the season: 31st in the NFL in yards per play, 31st in the NFL defensively on third down. They just haven't looked like a legitimate playoff team that we thought that they were going to be under this Mike McDaniel, Tua Tagovailoa era. And if it continues to trend downward, again, I look at that bye week and say, man, they might be coming out of that with a new head coach.
I will be at that game in Spain for Commanders Dolphins, so I will keep my eyes out for Mike McDaniel. Maybe he's hanging out post that one. It has gotten pretty dicey. The Dolphins will host the Chargers on Sunday from Hard Rock, of course. That one also on CBS. We'll wrap up our conversation talking about the Jets, Tyler. They will kick off our morning slate from London. Still looking for that first win. Unfortunately, though, they're taking on a Broncos team with a lot of momentum. And Tyler, one thing everyone was certain of coming into this season was that Aaron Glenn was going to be the answer, right? We were going to start to see some things change in the right direction. But your question, potentially looking at maybe a one and done when it comes to Aaron Glenn, the former Jet?
I think you have to have that question now, right? And I'm with you. I thought when they brought him in, it really was. I know that there was some criticism of, okay, you replaced a defensive-minded head coach with another defensive-minded head coach. And usually that's not how that works. Usually you try to bring in an offensive mind or a defensive mind, depending on what you had before. But the amount of talent that the New York Jets have on that defensive side of the ball, I thought it made sense. But you go through these first 5 weeks of the season, it has been bad defensive play for the New York Jets. They don't have a turnover, Haley, and that is something that I did not see and not think was imaginable through the first 5 weeks. Yes, of course, we thought that, maybe the offense would go through their lumps because of Justin Fields, and we'll see how he develops in his development as a passer. But the one strength that you could lean on was Aaron Glenn really getting the most out of his defense. Currently, we don't have that right now. And the fact that we are questioning their defensive identity, the fact that there are players-only meetings going on right now at New York Jets players on the defensive side of the football, that all screams bad news for Aaron Glenn. I don't know if he necessarily is going to be one and done, but if they are going to continue to be this bad and really highlight what is a key, supposed to be, strength of him as a defensive-minded head coach, if that's the reason why they're losing football games, that is not going to look good at ownership.
It is certainly not going to look good, and neither is an 0-6 start to the season. That is what they are potentially facing on Sunday. Tyler Sullivan, appreciate the time. Breaking down the AFC East, some big questions that we still have going into the Week 6 slate. Here is what you can expect from those East teams. We talked about them all, of course. Mike McDaniel still coaching for his job. the next opportunity to pick up a win Sunday against the Chargers. The Broncos have been so much fun this year. Jordan, I worry that one's going to get out of hand quickly in the morning, but of course, all eyes on the Bills looking to bounce back as well.
We'll be locked into that. I'll have my tea and crumpet ready.
There you go. Cheerio.
Yeah, cheerio. From the AFC East to the West, what are the burning questions we have surrounding the 2 and 3 Chiefs? That's next on HQ Spotlight.